The Clockmaker's Secret. Chapter 1. The Man Who Counted Seconds. In the city of Chronopolis, where giant clock towers loomed over every street, lived Elias Voss, a master clockmaker who believed time was the only true currency. His workshop was filled with ticking clocks, each synchronized to the millisecond. He wore a silver pocket watch that never left his hand, its constant click, 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 a reminder of life's relentless march forward. Elias had no family, no friends, only his clocks. He scoffed at lovers strolling through the square, at children playing hopscotch, at old men sharing stories over tea. Fools, he muttered, wasting the one thing they can never get back. One evening, as he adjusted the gears of the city's central clock tower, a frail voice spoke behind him. You keep perfect time, yet you've lost track of what matters. Elias turned to see an old woman in a tattered shawl, her eyes gleaming like polished brass. In her wrinkled hands, she held a strange clock, one with no numbers, only a single hand that quivered unpredictably. What nonsense is this? Elias snapped. A broken clock? The woman smiled. No, a living one. It measures not seconds, but moments. Before he could protest, she pressed the clock into his hands and vanished into the shadows. Chapter 2. The Clock That Ticked Backwards. That night, Elias examined the strange timepiece. Instead of ticking forward, its single hand sometimes paused when he recalled his mother's lullabies, spun wildly when he laughed at an old memory, ticked backward when he wiped away a tear. Ridiculous, Elias grumbled. Yet he couldn't bring himself to destroy it. The next morning, his routine was interrupted by a sobbing girl outside his shop. Her balloon had flown away. Passers-by ignored her, but the clock in Elias's pocket stopped. Every moment unlived is time truly wasted. The old woman's voice echoed in his mind. Gritting his teeth, Elias bought the girl a new balloon. As her tears turned to giggles, the clock's hand leaped forward, and Elias felt something strange in his chest. Warmth. Chapter 3. The Banker's Lesson. News spread of Elias's moment clock. Chronopolis's wealthiest banker, Regis Hale, offered a fortune for it. Imagine the productivity, he drooled. We could monetize every second. But when Hale held the clock, its hand froze. Why isn't it working? Hale snarled. Elias suddenly understood. Because you've never lived a moment in your life. Enraged, Hale ordered his guards to seize the clock. But the moment they touched it, the gears ground to a halt, as if rejecting their barren hearts. That night, Elias made a decision. He hung the clock in the town square with a sign. Time doesn't pass. You do. Choose wisely. Chapter 4. The Rebellion of Moments. The clock's influence spread like wildfire. A workaholic lawyer left early to see his daughters play, and the clock's hand danced. A grieving widow finally watered her late husband's roses, and the clock bloomed with golden light. Even Hale's stone-hearted guards began donating to orphans, and their uniforms itched less. But the city's elite fought back. This clock is dangerous, Hale thundered. It makes people waste time on frivolity. A midnight decree was issued. Destroy the moment clock. Chapter 5. The Choice. As torches approached the square, Elias stood before the clock, its fragile gears reflecting in his glasses. The old woman appeared beside him. You've learned time's secret, she said. Now choose. Save your perfect clocks, or this imperfect one. Elias thought of the girl's balloon, the widow's smile, the lawyer's tears during his daughter's performance. With a deep breath, he took out his prized pocket watch, the one that had never lost a second, and smashed it against the cobblestones. Some things are worth wasting time for. A brilliant light erupted. When it faded, the moment clock had multiplied into thousands of tiny clocks appearing in every home, every shop, every heart. And Hale? He was last seen? flying a kite. The new Chronopolis. Years later, the city still kept time, but differently. Meetings ended when laughter peaked, not when the hour struck. Clocks in schools ran faster during dull lessons, and slower during wonder. The central tower now chimed randomly, delighting children. As for Elias, he became a storyteller, his workshop now always full of listeners. When asked why he abandoned precision, he'd simply smile. I didn't abandon it. I just learned to measure what matters. And if you listen closely to Chronopolis's clocks today, you'll hear it too. The gentle whisper of moments well spent, ticking in unison. Live, live, live. Chapter 6. The Broken Pendulum. 5 years after the Great Time Awakening, Chronopolis thrived in beautiful chaos. The clocks still behaved unpredictably, sometimes speeding up during tedious council meetings, sometimes slowing to a crawl during summer festivals. But a new problem emerged. The central chronometer, the heartbeat of the city, began malfunctioning. Elias, now silver-haired but bright-eyed, was summoned to the tower. The great golden pendulum that had swung ceaselessly for centuries now stuttered like a choking man. Each faltering swing sent ripples through the city. Bread in bakeries half-baked, then burnt. Newborns blinked with ancient eyes, and shadows moved independently of their owners. The Time Council panicked. Fix it, demanded Mayor Vexley, whose pocket watch now grew hands like spider legs. Before we all unravel. But when Elias touched the pendulum, the old woman's voice whispered through the gears. Time isn't breaking, it's waking up. Chapter 7. The Boy Who Remembered Tomorrow. In the slums below Clocktower Square lived a mute orphan named Tick. While others saw erratic clocks, Tick saw patterns. To him, the chaos formed a language. When Widow Marlowe's clock spun backwards, her arthritis pain vanished. When the schoolhouse clock froze, teacher Miss Lenz always had her epiphanies. And every time Tick's own heartbeat clock stuttered, he glimpsed future echoes. One such vision sent him sprinting to Elias's workshop, where he frantically sketched what he'd seen, the central pendulum shattering at next dawn, followed by blankness. Elias paled, not because of the prophecy, but because Tick's drawing showed the fracture point exactly where he'd secretly repaired the mechanism years ago with stolen time. Chapter 8. The Trial of Moments. As midnight approached, Elias made a terrible confession to the gathered citizens. When I was young and greedy, I took seconds from others' lives to perfect my clocks. That's why the pendulum is failing. It's rejecting my theft. The crowd gasped, but Tick stepped forward, placing his small hand over the trembling mechanism. His voice, unused for years, emerged like a rusty gear grinding into motion. You gave those seconds me back. And he was right. The ledger of Elias's life showed. The hour spent teaching street kids clockwork. The days listening to elders' stories. The nights repairing neighbors' clocks for free. The pendulum's stuttering slowed. The old woman appeared atop the clock face, her shawl now woven from golden minutes. The final test, she intoned. Will you claim those good moments as repayment, or gift them freely? Elias didn't hesitate. Let them go. Chapter 9. The First Tick of True Time. At dawn, the impossible happened. Every clock in Chronopolis stopped simultaneously. For 3 breaths, the world hung suspended. Then, tick. The central pendulum swung anew, now forged from living brass that pulsed like a heartbeat. Across the city, clocks transformed. Bakers' timers now measured satisfaction. School bells rang when curiosity peaked. Even Hale's old gold pocket watch sprouted ivy, its hands replaced by budding vines. Tick laughed as his vision changed. The blankness in his drawing hadn't been oblivion, but a canvas yet unpainted. Chapter 10. The Last Clockmaker. In the years that followed, Elias's workshop became a place of pilgrimage. Visitors came not to buy clocks, but to learn the final lesson. There are only two ways to waste time: regretting the past and fearing the future. On the centennial of the Great Awakening, children found Elias still at his workbench, a smile on his still face. His personal clock showed no numbers, just two words where the 12 should be: enough, lived. And if you press your ear to Chronopolis's clocks today, you'll hear three whispers beneath the ticks. Love. Now, begin.